Greetings Exiles, Lexi here with my plans for the Third Edict League start for Path of Exile 2. In this video, I'll cover some build concepts as well as updates to my previous guides. My winning guides at PoE Vault have been updated for patch 0.3, at least with the limited info we have so far from the patch notes. Keep in mind that most of the patch changes are still unknown, such as the new passive skill tree and skill gems. New builds will need to be playtested and developed before releasing a guide for them. Let's get started. A new mechanic called Elemental Infusions was showcased during the Sorceress section of the Reveal livestream. Frostbomb, Orb of Storms, and Living Bomb can generate these infusions, but I have a feeling casting these skills will be clunky to play and not generate enough charges to be used consistently. I believe the most effective method for generating infusions will be with the new Snap, previously known as Cold Snap. The reworked version of this skill now works with ignited and shocked enemies, although it deals the most damage when used on frozen enemies. Cold Snap has been one of my favorite skills, especially while leveling through the campaign, like in my Frostbolt Cold Snap build. This build utilized Frostbolt supported by Scattershot to fire 3 projectiles, and then exploded all 3 projectiles in one cast of Cold Snap supported by Unleash. My plan for the league start is to level using a similar cold build. Ice Nova is getting buffed to be able to consume a cold infusion to deal more damage and create an area of chilled ground. This skill already has a built-in multiplier on freeze buildup, and it can be increased further with glaciation and nodes in the passive skill tree. Once Ice Nova freezes a group of enemies, snap them to deal massive damage and generate cold infusions to buff Ice Nova damage, creating an effective gameplay loop for leveling. We don't have any actual numbers on the buffed Ice Nova damage, so if it doesn't work out, the old Frostbolt Cold Snap build should still work well. Frostbolt's projectile damage is getting nerfed, but the explosion damage is what really matters, and that will not be changed. I've updated my winning guide to prepare for the Third Edict League, and I'll do my best to update it with any developments during the league. This Frostbolt Cold Snap build can be used to level a Sorceress or a Witch, which brings me to an important question: which class should you play? The Stormweaver is receiving some reworks to accommodate the new Elemental Infusions mechanic. Refracted Infusion is replacing Heart of the Storm, and instead provides a 50% chance when collecting an Elemental Infusion to gain another different Elemental Infusion. Storm's Recollection is replacing Scouring Winds, and instead grants remnants you create reappear once, 3 seconds after being collected. Are these changes enough to make the Stormweaver a viable choice compared to the Blood Mage? Well, gaining different elemental infusions has fairly limited use, as the only spells that can consume an infusion that is different from their elemental type are Ball Lightning, Ember Fusillade, Firestorm, and Flame Ball. There will likely be some viable builds that utilize Refracted Infusion, but nothing that I want to start with in the league. Storm's Recollection makes no sense to me. Rarely have I ever remained in the same spot for 3 seconds after killing an enemy, and I'm not about to backtrack to collect infusions. Remember that any class can generate these new infusions, so you aren't limited to Sorcerer for this mechanic. Unless some new unique items or support gems have massive synergies with the Stormweaver, I'm not convinced enough to league start a Sorceress. If you don't want to get baited into starting Stormweaver this league, the Blood Mage is still a great choice for a spellcaster build. My updated Frostbolt Snap Sorceress guide has notes for leveling a Witch, and the build easily transitions into one of my most successful endgame builds, the Frostbolt Comet Blood Mage. This build retains its power in the update and even gains some buffs. The Small Life passive node at the beginning of the Ascendancy tree has been removed, and Sanguimancy is now free to allocate. Also, Life Remnants now spawn on hitting a target instead of requiring a crit, making it easier to use. Allocating Sanguimancy by itself was a bad idea because it was challenging to sustain its life costs at first. This change allows Vitality Siphon to be allocated to leech life, along with Sanguimancy after completing the first trial. Sanguimancy becoming free to allocate also gives Blood Mages 2 extra Ascendancy skill points to spend. Gore Spike and Sun of the Flesh have swapped locations, which is ideal to gain the 15% base critical hit chance for spells. My Frostbolt Comet Blood Mage build gains this damage node in addition to the previous setup. The remaining nodes are allocated to massively boost survivability, and when Wrathpith Globe is obtained, the life gained also grants increased crit and damage. Don't forget that the spell Life Leech combined with Blood Magic provides an easy solution to sustain casting costs without having to invest into tons of mana regen. Blood Magic converts mana costs to life costs, and then Vitality Siphon leeches back the life spent. Overall, the Blood Mage has an easier time solving resources, while scaling more survivability and damage than a Stormweaver, which is why I'm sticking to Blood Mage for the League start. To get started with a new Witch character, you can use my Frostbolt, Snap, or Bone Storm rating guides for leveling. My final endgame build in the previous League was the Thor Lich, a build using Mjolnirs to trigger Lightning Warp for massive area damage. Mjolnir requires melee attacks to deal enough damage to build energy for triggers, so the deepest tower was equipped with a massive amount of low life damage to scale both melee attacks and spells. I need to rework this build since the deepest tower has been removed from the game in the Third Edict. My alternative plan for the Thor Lich is to utilize Crown of Eyes to apply increased spell damage to attacks, but I won't have an update for this build until later in the League. For now, use my Frostbolt Comet builds for the endgame. I hope this video helps you decide on a build for the Third Edict League. Reading guides that have been prepared for patch 0.3 are linked in the description. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more Path of Exile 2 content. If there is enough people interested in watching my progress live, I may return to streaming on Twitch. Until next time, peace out and happy slaying.